man, you guys like to set the bar low. So, all I can say is, in your future um, speaker series, I guess it can only go up from here. So, just keep that in mind. Nah, guys, I'm really happy to be here, and again, thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for joining us, Cal. We're very happy to have you too.
We're all on mute, so if you don't hear us laughing, don't worry, we're still laughing along.
No worries, guys. We've been having to get used to doing doing Zoom talks and stuff. So it's been different trying to get crowd reactions and all that like I'm used to. But overall, it's the new normal, so it's all good. But I wanted to start out by just telling you guys hopefully you guys don't get distracted by my dog slurping his water. I don't know why he decides to jump in right at the worst times, but but I want to tell you guys a quick little story. So I actually so I grew up in the South, and I grew up in Northeast Florida, which was basically South Georgia. And we had this little expression that we use when what we really were saying was, are you insane or crazy, or I'm pretty sure you should be in a loony bin somewhere. So what are you doing out here with the rest of us normal folks? And that expression is bless your heart. And this expression, let's just say it was in full force when one of your club members, Zach, and I, we were in Tokyo at the test event in 2019. And I'm pretty sure Zach has a terrified look on his face because he probably knows the story I'm going to tell. So if you're a veteran triathlete, you know that talk about anything to do with our bodies is on the table. So I mean, there's no limits to what we can or will talk about. And if you're a beginner triathlete, don't worry, you'll get used to all of us talking endlessly about our sweat rates, our bowel movements, how much we throw up if we if we swallow salt water, or anything at all. It's all on the table. So it's post race, and Zach and I, we're freshly cleaned up, and we're hanging out outside of our hotel, and we're just waiting for one of our teammates, because we had all planned to go to this nice restaurant, and we were just going to absolutely pig out on a really lavish post-race celebration dinner. And we ran into a couple of our other teammates who had decided that they were going to go. I think they were going out for like sushi or ramen or something, but they weren't going to be joining us for dinner. So we get to talking, and somehow the conversation turns to shaving, and how this was the first race that Zach had shaved for since high school. And so we're chatting away, and Zach's telling the girls about how he just doesn't remember his pant legs pulling at his now baby soft smooth skin, and like the little short hairs that are starting to grow back, and then he drops the gem of, I got this like reverse Brazilian thing going on now. So bless your heart, bro. Love you, man.
But inspiring talk.
Come on, bro. You got plenty of stories that you could share about me like that. But anyway, but look, guys, as triathletes, we are all used to people looking at us like we have three heads because let's be honest, we kind of do. um, Look, I'm not gonna lie. It takes something special and kind of crazy to want to compete at this sport. Whether you're, competing as a beginner age grouper, or you're an elite collegiate triathlete, or an elite age grouper, or you're trying to make it as a professional. And but I think what's really really cool about triathlon specifically is that it doesn't really matter what your background is. Your success in triathlon is really truly determined by your desire and your willingness to work hard. Because in triathlon, if you work hard, you will improve. And while that can be said for a lot of sports, I really think that triathlon is pretty special in that regard, just because we have to do so much, and we have to think so much about triathlon as a whole. You got to think about so many things in the swim, so many things on the bike, and you got to not fall apart and still focus and concentrate and push yourself to the maximum on, to finish strong on the run. And look, you guys, I will say I'm a prime example of how hard work in triathlon does pay off. Nowadays, you guys, some of you have known me in the past, and some of you, may have played on Google, or follow me on Instagram or Facebook or something like that. And people nowadays, they see me as one of the top blind triathletes in the United States. They they see me fighting for a spot to go to the Paralympics in Tokyo. They see the first totally blind athlete to go sub 11 hours for an Ironman. And they see all the podiums at the World Triathlon level. And so often you see that type of success, and you might think, man, that guy's got talent and so much more potential. But just the other week, I was I was talking with one of my other guides, and we were talking about how I really struggled recently in just from a training perspective, from a mental perspective of recognizing that if I take the 30,000 foot view, man, it's pretty amazing where I started in triathlon and where I am today. And look, I can acknowledge that when I got into this sport, I was I was a novice. I was a nobody. You guys, my very first triathlon, I did it was a 1500, it was an Olympic distance race. It was a 1500 meter swim, 40K bike, and a 10K run. I had never swum in open water before. And the 1500 meter swim took me 49 minutes and 51 seconds to complete. For those of you that can't do quick math, that's 3 minutes and 19 seconds per 100 meters, or if you use yards, that's 3 minutes and 2 seconds per 100 yards. Nothing about that time screams elite professional triathlete. But I had such a sadistic blast, muscling through and, gutting my way through that particular race. that, I said, look, I love this, and I want to find a way to get better at it. And look, fortunately for me, I did have a background. My life prepared me to a certain extent for the rigors and trials of triathlon training and racing. So for those of you that don't know, when I was 10 months old, I was diagnosed with a rare form of eye cancer called bilateral sporadic retinoblastoma. And basically what that means is I had a rare form of eye cancer in both eyes, and I had no family history. So I underwent treatment immediately for the cancer, and I went through 5 or 6 years of pretty intensive cancer treatment, ranging from chemotherapy to radiation to cryotherapy, thermotherapy. We did a bunch of experimental treatments, et cetera, et cetera. And eventually I was one of those patients that responded well to treatment. The treatment would, shrink the tumors. It would look like it was going to go away, but then the cancer would come back stronger than ever. And eventually what actually happened was the treatment that we were doing caused so much structural damage to my eyes. And it wasn't killing the cancer fast enough that eventually my eyes were basically useless. So when I was 5 years old, we removed my left eye. And then just before I turned 7, we removed my right eye. And so that is what left me totally blind. And as you guys can probably imagine, look, we were all little kids at one point. As a 7-year-old little kid, all you want to do is, I didn't really know anything more than, look, like, I know I'm sick. I know I've been going to the hospital, and I'm sick, and like, can you guys just make me better so I can go outside and play with my friends? Well, removing my eyes, definitely threw me for a loop, I guess you could say, because now I can't see a thing, and I asked myself, like, well, how am I going to do what I did before? Like, I used to run around, play tackle football in the street with my buddies, play street hockey, ride my bike, shoot hoops, rollerblade, all these things. And I really wasn't sure how I was going to do that. So I just kind of shut myself away, and just fell out of touch with my friends for a little bit. I was scared. I was angry. I was depressed. And then fortunately for me, my dad met a gentleman who he actually lived about a 45-minute drive from where we were living at the time. And this man's son happened to be totally blind as well. And he was a world-class blind athlete. And so this guy named Ed his name was Ed Weinmeyer. He arranged his son Eric happened to be a motivational speaker as well as a world-class athlete, and he had arranged for Eric to come to our town anyway to do some speaking engagements. So while Eric was in town, Ed arranged for Eric and I to sit down and have a little chat. So I met this guy, and this is, I had just turned 7. It was just a few months after I had turned 7. This was back in, what was it, like early 1999, probably. Gosh, that's over 2 decades ago. Man, I'm getting old. so I sit down with this totally blind guy, and he tells me all about these crazy things that he does. He's like, he skydives, he rock climbs, he downhill skis, he rides a tandem bike, he runs marathons, he does all this crazy stuff. And he basically challenged me. He basically told me, like, look, man, like I'm just like you. I'm totally blind. I was in your shoes at one point. I thought I couldn't do anything, and look at me now. I've got a great life, and you can do just about anything if you're willing to put in the work, and you're willing to think creatively, and you're willing to try and fail at stuff, and find your way to success. And so Eric actually challenged me to try out rock climbing. And I was like, man, that sounds absolutely insane. When can I go try it? So about a year after I met Eric, I did start rock climbing, and within a year of actually starting rock climbing, I became a competitive rock climber, and I competed on a rock climbing circuit for kids for a few years. And my whole family actually got into it. My sisters became competitive climbers as well, and that turned into our family traveling around the Southeast to go to rock climbing competitions, but also to go on camping and hiking trips and outdoor rock climbing trips. And then that morphed into traveling out to Colorado to learn to ski and do more outdoor adventure stuff. And eventually, we fell in love with this adventure sport lifestyle. And I made it all the way up into, college, doing all these adventurous things. When I was going into high school in 2006, I hiked this version of the Inca Trail called the Ancascocha Trail into Machu Picchu. I was just 14 years old, and then a year after that, I teamed up with the same group that I went to Peru with, and we climbed and summited Mount Kilimanjaro, tallest mountain in Africa. And so I had done all these pretty cool things, and I made it to college, and I made it through college. And guys, I grew up. I was on the you guys are, most of you are just a couple of years younger than me, but so I was on kind of the edge of that wave of the what do they call it, like the financially independent retire early wave, or the you can do anything if you just set your mind to it wave, and millennial power. You can, I as a millennial am the greatest thing in the world, and no one can stop me no matter what. So I graduated from college in 2013, and look, I'll freely admit it, I was an arrogant SOB. I was definitely the greatest thing since sliced bread. I was going to be, the youngest, CEO, running my own company, what have you. And I thought I just had the world of experience. And so I strutted into the real world with this attitude. And I said, well, I'm going to apply for every job that is CEO and above. And after about 3 or 4 months of applying for said jobs, I realized that didn't really work out so well for me. So I lowered my sights to I'm definitely upper level management material. And so then I just started steadily climbing my way down the corporate ladder until I was so desperate for work and employment. I just wanted to start putting money in the bank instead of watching it go out of my bank account. And so I went to a grocery store and I applied to be a bag boy, and I didn't get the job. And so that was you could definitely say that was a low point. And I didn't really know what to do. I had kind of let myself go. I had wrestled in both high school and college, but I had kind of let myself go after college, and I had packed on quite a few pounds, and was really stressed and struggling mentally and emotionally. And so I was just like, well, I know that being active will will at least help give me a distraction from not having a job. So I jumped on the Google, and just started looking for something that I could do. And I was like, well, I guess I could try running, but in order to run, I need someone to guide me around. So I found this website that partners blind and sighted runners together, and there were two guys listed on the website for the area where I was living. I was living in Orlando, Florida at the time. And I was like, well, beggars can't be choosers. So I emailed both of them, and only one guy responded. And again, I was just like, well, one is better than none. So let's give this a whirl. So I met this guy at a park in downtown Orlando, and he had never met a blind person, let alone guided one running. And I had no idea what I was doing. And we started. I had this I scrounged around, and I'd found some paracord or something, and we fashioned some type of rope that we could hold on to, and so that he could guide me while we were running. And so we start running around this little man-made lake in downtown Orlando, and I think we get a quarter mile, or maybe it was a half mile, maybe it was a quarter mile. I don't really remember. But we're getting up to this bridge that goes over the lake, and my guy just runs me smack into a pole. And so I fall over. I'm rolling on the ground, clutching certain male body parts that are definitely inflamed and in a lot of pain. But I got up, and I dusted myself off, and the guy felt bad, but he was willing to just keep on going. So I was like, well, if he's willing to keep guiding me after running me into a pole, who am I to say no? And so we started running together on a pretty consistent basis. And this guy happened to be a triathlete. And after a few months of running together, he was like, hey, Kyle, I think you could do a triathlon at some point. And I was like, man, that sounds just insane. I can't swim. I know how not to drown, but I can't swim. I've ridden a tandem bike before, but I've never raced or anything like that. And I just started running, dude. Triathlon, that's insane. When can we start training for it? So that was kind of my introduction to triathlon. And we had no idea what we were doing. This guy, his name's Mike Melton. He taught me basically everything I know about triathlon. He showed me the ropes. He taught me how to swim in a pool. Taught me how to swim in open water. We had some very near misses and crashes on my tandem bike, and I did a lot of plotting in my running. And we trained and raced together in a bunch of triathlons for a solid 2 years. And he did guide me to the finish of my first Ironman in 2016 at Ironman Boulder. And I somehow didn't drown on the swim, and we clawed our way through this extremely hilly bike course in Boulder, Colorado. And then I was so jazzed up and so exhausted, and just all those crazy emotions that you go through when you get off the bike to start an Ironman run, that I ran as hard as I could for the first mile of the marathon. And then I proceeded to walk the next 25 miles and then ran down the last quarter mile, which was basically the finisher chute. So my first Ironman was, again, nothing stellar, nothing that screamed professional triathlete. I finished in just under 16 hours. But for some reason, I was just so hooked on this sport, and I realized that the more time and effort and concentration and focus I put into getting better at this sport that I not too long ago I had thought was just absolutely crazy. Man, I wondered really how far I could go, and I started to kind of set my eyes a little higher. At the time, the world record for a for someone that was visually impaired to complete an Ironman was right around 11 hours, and I was like, man, I don't know if I can, but I believe that I'm better than a 16-hour Ironman finisher. And I had at that point found a job. I was employed, but I wasn't happy in my cubicle job. I was working for a department of the Navy, a division of the Department of the Navy, and as a civilian. And I just, sitting in a cubicle for 8 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week was not my cup of tea. So I picked up my life, quit my job, and decided, I'm gonna move to Colorado. My family had just moved out to Colorado. My parents had decided to semi-retire in Colorado, so I picked up my life in Florida and moved out, rented a room from my parents, and from then on, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do as a career or a profession, but I knew that I wanted to have triathlon be a major part of my life. So I just spent the next year, from the end of 2016 to the end of 2017, just training and training and training. And I went down to Ironman Arizona at the end of November of 2017, and was able to race my way to an 11 hour and 46 minute Ironman. And then after that, I looked around and I was like, man, if I can take 4 hours off of an Ironman, and I haven't even been being coached by anyone. I've just been doing this all on my own, making it up as I go along. Just putting in hours and hours and hours of hard work in the pool, on the bike, and on the bike trainer, and running on a treadmill. Man, what can I do if I dedicate and focus and really try to perfect my craft? And so I hired a coach at the beginning of 2018, and my goal was to go under 11 hours. Now the world record for the overall visually impaired had gone under 11 hours at that point. But the fastest Ironman for a totally blind athlete was still sitting at just over 11 hours and 3 minutes. And so I was like, man, I really want to go under 11 hours. And so I trained my butt off for all of 2018, and made it to the start line of I decided that since I'd had such a good race at Ironman Arizona 2017, I decided to go after my sub 11 hour bid at Arizona again in 2018. And I got to the start line with my guide, who was this he was this crusty old, he's this crusty old Scottish dude. At the time he was like 52, 53 years old. He had done like 12 or 13 Ironmans, and he was one of those guys that he could just roll out of bed, and he had just done so much training over the 30 years that he had been doing triathlon that he could roll out of bed, probably swim backstroke, do an Ironman swim in like an hour and 15 minutes, and then ride his bike hard, and then grab a beer at every aid station and still finish the Ironman marathon in like 4 hours or something like that. But he was just the guy that I needed, because when it came down, he was this fun-loving guy, but he was just the guy I needed to really push me beyond what I thought I could do. And like I believed really strongly that I could go under 11 hours if I had a perfect day. But one of the beautiful things about triathlon is that a perfect day doesn't exist. So we got to the start line of Ironman Arizona, and the water temp was 58 degrees. I only had a sleeveless wetsuit. Air temp was water temp was 58 degrees. Air temperature was, I think, 49, 50 degrees in the morning. I think the high that day was supposed to be like 72, 73, but that wasn't going to be until like noon. And this was, 6:30 in the morning. So, we swim, and I had, been training really hard, and I swam about 10 minutes slower than I thought I was going to swim, and, got out of the swim. My feet were just numb. I couldn't feel my feet at all. We got on the bike, and, we're riding along, and about 5 miles into the bike ride, we hear this high-pitched squealing that just doesn't go away. And so we get off the bike, and we're looking at the brakes, and we're trying to adjust the wheel and adjust the brakes, and we get back on the bike, and we just ride and ride and ride. But no matter what we tried, the brakes just never stop rubbing. So the brakes just never stopped rubbing. And so we rode the entire 112 miles of Ironman Arizona basically with rubbing brakes. And we biked about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes slower than we had anticipated. So we're sitting about 30 minutes slower than we had guessed we would. And at this point I hit the run, and I'm just like, oh man, I don't know about this. I've only run a sub 4 hour marathon on fresh legs before, and I have to run a 4 hour and 10 minute marathon to even have a chance at breaking 11 hours. But Alan, who was guiding me, he set a pace, and we kept steady, and just kept mile after mile ticking away. And we got to mile 20 of the run, and Alan looks down at his watch, and he says, "Hey man, what's your hard and fast goal for today?" And I told him, well, if we've got a chance, I want to break 11 hours. And Alan just comes out with this, he bellows in my ear, "Well, we can't stop it anymore. Effing aid stations, mate." Except it was more, he actually dropped the F-bomb on me. So, yeah, I had stopped at every aid station for the first 20 miles. And then for the last 10 kilometers, we just flat out ran as hard as we could. And we managed to just squeak in under the 11-hour mark at 10 hours, 59 minutes and 17 seconds, which made me the first totally blind athlete to go under 11 hours, which was, for those of you that have done an Ironman or training for an Ironman, or even just done a sprint or an Olympic distance or 70.3, when you hit your goal, it's pretty amazing. It's a pretty awesome feeling. But it's one of those things where as triathletes and athletes and elite athletes in general, you celebrate and you enjoy the moment, but then you immediately look to, well, what's next? And the
Hey, Kyle.
Yo.
I just wanted to jump in there real quick and say, I think I speak for all of us, firstly, when I say that was an extremely impressive Scottish accent that you did there. And also how impressive that finish is, especially with a bike mechanical, can definitely derail a race. I know some people had questions that they wanted to ask you at the end of the talk, and we asked them to hold them till the end of the talk. So just wanted to give you a little time point here. Probably have about like 15-ish minutes left before some of us need to get. So just give you a little time point there. I know you don't have a visual feedback on your screen. Since actually, do you even have a screen on your computer?
I do. Yeah. I have a screen. I don't even know if my video is on right now.
No, it is. It's good. It's well centered. Anyway, just figured I'd jump in there. But
hey, I appreciate it. I won't take too much longer, and just give me like just a couple more minutes, and
no, it's all good. B is waiting to ask you questions.
B, you've always got questions.
I'm patiently waiting.
I appreciate it. You can always ask me questions. I love them. But anyway, guys, look, as we all know, like, we're all, as triathletes, we're always looking for, what's next, what's the next challenge. And, at that time in 2018, the International Paralympic Committee had just announced that male visually impaired triathlon was going to be in the Paralympics. And I looked around, I was like, well, I'm kind of fast at this Ironman thing. I wonder if I can be fast at, going back and racing sprints again. And so that's how I got teamed up with that crazy guy, Zach. He was brave enough to after 2 weeks after Ironman Maryland in, 2018, Zach was brave enough to try and guide me at a World Cup in Florida, on the what was then the ITU circuit, but is now the World Triathlon circuit. And well, darn it, if he didn't do such a good job, I haven't been able to shake him since then. But no, we've gone on to to train and race, and push the limits of what I think is possible. And we are super stoked to be pushing on toward Tokyo. And look, for me, Tokyo, it's definitely not a finish line. It's a chance to, again, try and perfect my craft as a triathlete, to bounce back from a rough year and a half for me. Last year, I was poised to have a really, really good. I was set up to have a really, really good 2020, and had a really bad back injury at the end of last season. Was able to recover from that within about 4 months, and then at the beginning of this 2020 season, was again back to being fit and strong, and again had an accident in the gym, and wound up having a bad hand injury. So I had to claw my way back from that, and then the pandemic hits us, and they cancel our Paralympic trials 36 hours before we're supposed to race. And and now we're here, poised, ready to tackle 2021, and hopefully have a great racing season and go on to race at the Paralympics. But but I think triathlon is just one of those really, really special sports that, I mean, look, I think as triathletes, I think we were some of the best prepared people for the craziness that happened this year. Because look, I mean, as I said at the top, in triathlon, there's no such thing as a perfect day, and well, in life, there's no such thing as there's no such thing as perfect, even though we strive to chase that all the time. So I think I think as triathletes, we've all we all were able to pivot a little bit better than most other people, and I think the triathlon community specifically is going to come out of 2020 and attack and have just an incredible 2021 season, both on the both on the para triathlon side as well as the able-bodied side. So I'm looking forward to tackling some triathlons in 2021, and looking forward to seeing y'all out on some race courses at some point as well. So I know you guys got questions. So I'm a dartboard. Hit me.
Thanks, Kyle. We're all clapping, but you can't hear us because we're on mute.
Awesome stuff.
Can I go first?
Oh, I guess you can.
Kyle, thank you very much for this. I heard your story before. I watched documentaries before, and I just know you well from Zach now, but it still amazes me every time you tell your story. And, you know, you change people's mind about what they can and they can't do. Like, you should never accept when someone tells you can't do something, because you can. I mean, anyway, my question is actually about the blind community.
Mm-hmm.
So you found your way, and I'm sure it wasn't easy to put yourself like in sports, like get away from your depression or, you know, mental health problems through giving yourself to sports, training hard, finding your outlet that way. But
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot more blind people in just the United States too, that don't have the resources to do that. And I also know it's really hard to find jobs. So as a team, I was thinking, how can we help blind community to have more resources to sports? Like, is there a platform where we can apply to be guides for any sports that we are comfortable with doing? What do you suggest that we can do from our part to help with that? Because I know government is not very, you know, not doing much about that, and there are still so many blind people who are can't be employed.
For sure. No, hey, you know, thanks for your number one. Thanks for your kind words, B. And look, it is a it's a tough. I'm not gonna lie. It's hard being someone who's blind or visually impaired. A lot of people, you know, go blind later in life. I was lucky that I went blind when I could still when I was still young enough to learn to improvise and adapt, so that I could overcome situations that, you know, presented themselves down the line. But, you know, as you stated, look, I mean, you know, there's roughly 8 or 9 million people in the United States right now that are blind, that are considered blind or visually impaired, and roughly 70% of those are not in the workforce. So it is tough, and, you know, sports and physical activity do play such a huge, crucial role. And so I think as a team, what you guys specifically can do is, number one, you know, learn about, you know, continue to have an open mind, learn about the disability communities, you know, from blindness, visually impair, you know, from a blindness and visual impairment perspective, a wheelchair perspective, an amputee perspective, you know, a Down syndrome perspective. You know, learn, and number one, keep an open mind and try not to put barriers up in your own mind about what people in the disability community are capable of, first and foremost. For the specifically on the guide front, if you guys want to help out and you want to get involved in the blind and vision impaired running community, the triathlon community, we have a lot. There's actually a bunch of Facebook groups out there. One of them is blind and visually impaired triathletes and guides is a group that I'm a part of, and I think Zach's a part of it as well. So search for that on Facebook, request to join that, introduce yourselves as guides. There's a website that was launched a few years ago that that tries to partner blind and sighted athletes together, or at least it's a database. So it's called unitedinstride.com. Go to that website, create a profile, and search for blind athletes by your zip code or by your state, and reach out to them and just get a conversation going. And look, it might take a little effort on your part to push someone into going beyond their comfort level. I can tell you personally, like, Zach, when Zach guides me, he's definitely in my eyes, but he is definitely not above pushing me to my absolute limit, and he is not afraid to crack the whip when he needs to. So I would definitely say check out unitedinstride.com, create a profile, reach out, search for people in your community, reach out to them, join some of the Facebook groups, search out blind and visually impaired triathletes and guides. There's another group called Running Eyes. That's another great Facebook group as well. Or just drop me a direct message on Instagram, or shoot me a Facebook message or something like that. And I'll try to help you guys get connected in whatever ways you want as well.
Thank you very much. Zach actually shared, while you were saying all those stuff, he shared in the chat the Facebook groups and the website for United's, right?
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
Thank you very much, Kyle.
Yep. Come on, I know there's more questions.
I have a question for you, Kyle. This is Monica.
Okay.
Thank you for your talk. I wanted to ask you, so since you're continuing to train for the Paralympics next year, what are your tips for staying motivated during this time when you're continuing toward your goals that are relocated in the time period?
Well, for me, motivation is interesting. So all motivation is if you break it down, all motivation means is a reason to move. So what is my reason to move? Why am I why am I trying to qualify for the Paralympics in the first place? And for me, it's not about collecting shiny gold, silver, or bronze objects. It's not about collecting a paycheck. All that stuff helps. But for me, my reason to move is, it's pretty simple. If I'm not moving, I'm dying. I've always been that person that absolutely loves pushing, myself to the limit, in whatever sport or endeavor I take on. 2020, it was a disruption. A lot of people were very frustrated by the delayment, the delay of the Olympics and the Paralympics. But for me, it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because as I told you guys, I'd had two pretty bad injuries leading into the first part of 2020, and while I was essentially physically healed, I still wasn't all mentally there. So this entire year has actually given me a very good opportunity to recover fully physically, as well as get my head on straight. And just remember, I'm not racing for a medal. I'm not racing because it's fun. I'm racing because it's a challenge, because I get to do it with a cool guy like Zach. I get to do it with someone alongside me. I have teammates that push me every day, and it's my job to turn up and push them every day as well in training. Because look, I mean, this is an opportunity that a lot of people don't get to have, I've been in that situation before where I was trapped in a cubicle, and I don't want to go back there. So racing and training, it makes me feel a lot more alive than I could ever be if I wasn't doing this.
Thanks, Kyle.
For sure.
Guys, we probably have time for like one more question. Anyone have a burning question?
I have a question if no one else has one. This is Joanna.
Yep.
I was wondering, I know you work with like several guides at different times and different races, and I was wondering for like very important, target races and stuff, what goes into your decision about who would be the best person to guide you for those?
It largely depends on my guide availability. Zach has been my primary race guide for the last year and a half or so. How well we work together is a very, very critical part of the blind athlete and guide relationship. I've raced with guys and guides that are if Zach lined up and went head to head with them, I mean, they'd wipe the floor with him as an individual. But when one of the really cool things about blind and vision impaired triathlon is that it is a true team sport. And what you can do is what I try to do is I try to find the guide that is best suited for the race course, and that I just have such a good relationship with, that that guide can know what buttons that he needs to push for me to really turn it up a notch, to go to a different gear. He knows what to say or do to reel me in, to make me be patient. And it also it's also important that, look, the guide, my guides know that they're not racing for me, and they're not racing for themselves. We are racing for the team of whether it be Kyle and Zach or Kyle and Andy, or whoever happens to be best available at that time. So they're so like rapport and just knowing each other's racing styles and moods and buttons to push. I mean, it so much goes into that. I mean, I could give you guys an entire 2-hour plus seminar on what goes into selecting and training and developing a guide to be part of a team. And it's a lot of fun. It's really cool, and essentially I look for the best teammate that that I can find.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Kyle. This is Rory. Want to thank you again for joining us for our very first inaugural speaker series. So you set the bar very high for your successors. Rachel, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, just thank you for taking the time to meet with us today and tell you your story. And we wish you luck in any of your upcoming races and any other adventures you may have.
Awesome. Well, hey, you guys, thank you so very much. I really appreciate you guys inviting me on. And now, hey, look, I look forward to. I'm not sure if you guys have decided whether Triton Man's going to happen or not in 2021, but whenever it does happen, I look forward to coming back out and racing it, and hopefully seeing a lot of you guys on the course as well. So,
Yeah,
Awesome.
we look forward to seeing you there too, Kyle.
Awesome, guys. Well, hey, thank you guys again so very, very much. I really appreciate the support of the UCSD Tri team. You guys have been awesome in my triathlon journey. So thank you.
Guys, let's give him a round of applause. He can't see our reaction, so.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. See you at practice.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Kyle.
Bye.
Thanks, Kyle.
Have a good
Voiceover
one.
on Zoom.us. Zoom, quit Zoom, system dial.